Welcome to the Nintendo Rewind. I am Cody Christian, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Becker. And we're rewinding and recapping last week for Nintendo. Well, not really. We're doing so much more than just last week for Nintendo. But before we dive in, Christopher, how is it going, my dude? You look dapper, dude.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I got a little tan. I decided to head over to the Dollar Tree, got this tuxedo. I'm ready to go.
You're looking good, man. I'm kind of amazed at the fact that you tan with your eyes wide open, because your eyelids are very clearly lighter than your skin. But you know, you're still looking good. If you'd have had time, would you have gotten a different hairstyle? Would you went with a different cut, or would you been rocking that same cut?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm just gonna rock the same cut. I mean, I tried to change it up and asked for the taper fade, right?
So we can get the true mullet going. The 2024 mullet.
Taper fade mullet, and the hairstylist just looked at me and said, "So you just want me to do a fade?" I was like, yeah, whatever works for you, ma'am. And that was it. That's what happened.
Oh no, I understand. Hey, I hear a doggo in the background, by the way. You know what we're doing? What we're doing tonight is the thing that I've looked forward to probably the most all year. It is the event of the year for us as a show, and it's looking back on the past 12 months for Nintendo, and really kind of lavishing in the grandeur that was the gaming year from all of our favorite publisher. But you know, it also marks the 1 year anniversary of our very first episode here on Nintendo Rewind. We missed 4 episodes this past year, by the way. 4 total episodes. This is episode 49. One I was sick, 2 I was on vacation, and then another one I had a tragedy in the family that I was dealing with, and so we took some time away. But it is crazy to think that, you know, you and I and Josh have came together on a weekly basis for nearly a full year without real interruptions. And I'm so proud of the work that we've done on here, and I hope next year is even better and we get to grow even more, and that people share the show with other people. We're getting some good compliments, by the way, telling us that we look snazzy over on the YouTube chat as well. So thank you so much, Mel with a name on YouTube, Kirby Geek. But you know, I'm so excited for tonight. Chris, what kind of nonsense did you get into this past week, by the way?
Oh gosh, you know, nothing good. It's a great question. What did I get into this week? I won a PlayStation 5 of all things. Let's
get some hype in the chat. Why are we talking about PlayStation 5 on Nintendo Rewards Night? But hey, like, listen, that's crazy awesome. That's the best thing to happen this year.
You asked me a question. What else did I do this week? You know, I had some eggnog. I ate after 7 p.m. I didn't turn into a gremlin yet. Yeah.
Don't give it water. That's all you got to do. You can eat, but don't give it water.
I'll tell you what, Gremlin's one of my favorite Christmas movies. But I will also say, shout out to Cody for you're the only host that has appeared at both of these Rewindies. Huh?
Oh, I am the only one that's made it to both.
Yeah, that's right.
You came in a little bit later though, and then Josh has had some things going on, so you know, I don't hold anyone accountable for it. I am the Jeff Keighley of the Rewindies. That's who I am. I tried to dress the part. I've got the button up with no collar. I've got the crushed velvet jacket, and even the forest green. I don't know what these handkerchiefs that you stick in the pockets are called, but we're just gonna say that. I do want to welcome some people into the show, by the way. Welcome in Suzish, welcome in Sierra Christian, welcome in Mel Needs a Name, Mrs. Nerdwire, and of course I'm joined by Super Nintendo Dad and myself. So Pocket Square, but it's not a pocket square, is it? It's not nerdy enough for a pocket square. but I'm feeling fancy and I'm feeling free. So, I'm super, super excited. Now, the one thing that we don't have going on tonight's show is any world premieres or any video game trailers for upcoming things. Yeah. But if you are a developer or a publisher and you would like to put your game in our show, even if it's indie titles, even if it's not coming to Nintendo Switch, reach out to us for next year's Nintendo Rewindies, the Rewindies 2025. We'd love to be able to shout out all of our indie developers who are out there in the community who are doing things that are really, really cool, and be able to give you some attention on your project. So, but we do have one thing that we definitely need to do before we get into the actual Rewindies part of the episode. And that one thing is something we do every week, and it's making sure that we are thanking our gracious members over on NintendoRewind.com. Before we dive into the show, we want to make sure that we thank them. If you would like to directly support our content, guide what we're discussing, and get exclusive videos that won't be uploaded to our YouTube channel, you can sign up to become a member. Plus, you get some merch discounts, and every dollar spent on our merch also helps us continue to produce this show and the Rewindies. But more importantly, Nintendo Rewind, the weekly podcast that you listen to on a weekly basis. There is even a tier that only costs $1 a month, and with it, you get a shout out right here on the show. I'd like to extend a big thanks to Calamity Nolan, Sierra Christian, and Shiny Bird for all of your gracious support. Now we're going to get into the part of the show that you guys all came for, and that is the Rewindies. Hang tight. We'll see you right after this. Welcome, one and all, to the Rewindies. My name is Cody Christian, as you have heard probably 3 times if you've been watching the pre-show by now. And I'm joined by my very fancy and very suave and debonair Super Nintendo Chris Becker co-host right down below. Chris, how are you doing tonight? What are you most excited to reveal tonight in terms of our nominees? What categories got your jimmies all up in a knot? I don't know why I said it that way, but hey, Pardon? That is what your jimmies are in a knot. What category are you most excited for? How is it going?
Llama. I hardly knew her.
Llama.
I'm excited. I'm so excited for Game of the Year. Can I just say who it is, since I know who won?
No. We don't. Spoilers. Spoilers. We have a whole night of announcements going on, and a whole lot of reflection on this past year for Nintendo going on. And mind you, we are the best, and as far as I know, the only Nintendo Game Awards show on the internet. So people should be tuning in right now. But you don't want to spoil too much of the episode for them. I'll tell you the one that I'm most excited for, Chris.
Sure. Yeah.
The one I
meant to ask.
There we go. No, you're all good.
Yeah.
The one I'm most excited for is actually the best NSO edition for the year. We had 9 really, really cool categories, but the NSO edition really speaks to me. It is one of those categories that reflects on games of yesteryear. I do love me some retro games, and it's a fun time to be able to dive in a different way, and a lot more people get their hands on it because they may not have a 30-year-old console just laying around to be able to play, I don't know, Vector Man on it. Or Metroid Zero Mission, or they might not have been Japanese enough to be able to play Densetsu no Starfy. So that's the category that I'm most excited for. What about yourself, Chris? I know you said Game of the Year, but there's got to be something else out there that you're really stoked for too.
Yeah, probably the third-party game of the year.
I know you are a big indie fan. Small, not AAA, but definitely single A studio fan yourself. You really love your indies and your third-party titles. I don't blame you. Just to let you guys know, we also had a community vote that was available for people to vote in over on the Discord. And if you guys would have liked to have been a part of that, or would like to participate next year, you can go over to... Hang on. There's the link in the description there. The Discord invite is there. And you can vote in next year's Rewindies, as well as continue the conversation even beyond this. But without any further ado, without any more preamble, without any more jibber-jabbering, we're going to jump into this, and we are going to reveal our very first category for the Rewindies 2024, and that category is the nominees for Best Single-Player Game. And the first nominee is Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, followed by Mario and Luigi Brothership, then Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club, and finally, Princess Peach Showtime. Chris, which of these games stands out to you the most as the one that you had the best time with?
In terms of the one I had the best time with,
Mhm.
now, you know, I'm not much of a reader. I wanted to give it to Emio just because it was like different from everything else, but I guess out of all these, sadly, it wasn't Mario and Luigi Brothership, and I guess it was Echoes of Wisdom.
Well, it definitely, for me, wasn't Princess Peach Showtime.
Well,
sorry,
yeah.
I'm coming out negative right out of the gate. You know, honestly, when we were originally discussing this category and trying to figure out what categories we wanted to put up for vote, we had this as Best Single-Player Story Game. And I think you're right on when you talk about Emio the Smiling Man being the game that had the best single-player story. Because, I mean, it was a story, and it was single-player. You couldn't play it any other way. But, you know, as far as that goes, my pick, and I'm still very early on in the game, I've probably spent maybe 3-ish hours with it, was Mario and Luigi and Brothership. I almost said Mario and Luigi and Brothership, as if that is a third character that you get to control. But I think when we look at the actual winner, we had to go with what the community ended up voting for. And the community had 67% of their votes go to this game. And I'm going to go ahead and reveal it now. Drum roll, please, Chris Becker.
brrr.
The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I had a really, really good time with this game. We gave it an 83 whenever we did the original review for Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. 26 great hours of gameplay, although there were sections of that game you could completely blow by and never actually see. But I had such a good time with this game. And it was cute. It harkened back to Link's Awakening, the remake that they did earlier on in the Switch's life cycle. I had a good time with Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Now, that being said, I think you had some different qualms with it. And a lot of the qualms that I had with it were the UI sucked and there was no direct combat. How did you feel about Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom?
Yeah, it was felt more like a puzzle game than a Zelda game. But, you know, we're out here playing it. Especially, like, they let you play the opening with Link, and he's, like, got a nice, like, high jump. He's got a nice slash attack, and then it's like, I just gotta find the easiest creature that I can use to... You know what? It's best if we just move on.
No. I think you're 1,000% right. There were some glaring issues with this game, but I think overall there's a lot of positivity still yet surrounding it. I really, really enjoyed some of the story beats that were there. I loved being able to actually finally play as Zelda in a canonical style Legend of Zelda game. I thought that was super neat. I liked the puzzles that were here, and the return of a traditional dungeon was something that we hadn't seen in lots of years because of things like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild coming out. And so this was a very, very good entry in terms of 2D Zeldas. Is it my favorite Zelda out of all of them that's ever came out? No, not at all. And I think it's fair to say it probably isn't going to be hardly anyone's favorite Zelda. But as far as a great single-player story game that came out, when you look at the contestants that were there on the board, you've got Mario and Luigi Brothership, you've got Princess Peach Showtime, and you've got Emio the Smiling Man. I think this is one of the most approachable titles that are on that list. That harken back to some of that nostalgia that people had for old school 2D top-down Zeldas as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked the Link's Awakening remake. So I was excited for this one. And, you know, what was it like? One of the interviews that they had, like the Q&As that they had, where they were like, you know, what was it like 15 months ago, like, or 15 months before the game came out, like they didn't even know what it was going to be, and then it just kind of came together. It definitely feels like that. That is I mean, listen, they try, but
oh my goodness,
I did enjoy my time with it. Just I'm also enjoying my time not with it, so I don't know that I'll revisit that one anytime soon.
Absolutely. Well, you know, there are some other games that are on our list. That's the winner. There's some other games on the list, and some other categories we have here. The next category, Chris, do you want to introduce it, and do you want to reveal the nominees?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I gotta pull it up, and for best multiplayer game, we've got Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, Endless Ocean Luminous, and Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Now, we got all those games, okay? What of those do you think you would give the old winner to?
You know, personally, I really genuinely love Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, but the thing that frustrated me from a multiplayer standpoint is that there was no online multiplayer. And as a 36-year-old man with no friends that live nearby, it's very difficult to get more than 2 people in a room that are capable at playing that game. Because retro games are difficult. They're hard, man. But that's the one that kind of stands out the most to me is Nintendo World Championships NES Edition with its party mode, being able to play up to, I think it was 8 players at launch, and obviously it hasn't changed. And they've continued to support that game well beyond what I ever anticipated them supporting it. But you know, that's the one that stands out to me possibly the most out of these. Beyond the obvious. What about you, Chris?
Beyond the obvious, yes. I think the one that I was like, oh, that's neat, was probably Endless Ocean Luminous. Just the idea of it, that they have you being able to play with so many people. But then the same thing happened with Super Mario Party Jamboree, where they had so many people playable with the multiplayer in that one. Now, in terms of who won, do you want me to announce that?
Yeah, go for it. If you're ready for the announcement, I'm ready for the announcement. Do you want to lead off with what the community voted?
Sure. I'll go ahead and give you that. The community voted for Super Mario Party Jamboree with 80% of the votes. And you know what? They got it right one time. I guess 2 times now. Super Mario Party Jamboree ended up winning Best Multiplayer Game. It beat out Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, which I know you were a big fan of.
I was. We even had one of our bonus episodes over on NintendoRewind.com being focused around the NES World Champions, or Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. My apologies. I need to get my names correct. I know.
Yeah.
But
we'll get there.
I think the thing that hampered that was just the lack of online multiplayer still yet.
Yeah.
Because this Super Mario Party Jamboree boasted up to 20 players online multiplayer, over 100 mini games still yet. And when they announced that it was going to be a part of the Super franchise of the Mario Party games, I was a little bit worried. Were you, Chris? Was it one that you were like, oh no?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this. I wasn't that worried once they announced that they were going to have the motion controls, but then there are non-motion control games. That was my least favorite part about Super Mario Party. The original one on the Switch, where it was like, it required you to play with the Joy-Con. And even if you were playing in handheld mode or on the Switch Lite, right? You needed to have a Joy-Con.
Yeah.
Nope. Couldn't even play it. Like, you would load the game up with a Pro Controller, and like as soon as the game loads up, it instantly shuts off the Pro Controller. My least favorite kind of games.
I do appreciate the fact that they still had those motion control games included in here, but gave you the option to have those turned off. So you could still play this on your Switch Lite if you were wanting to play it.
Right.
Although I do question people who are buying Super Mario Parties or Mario Parties in general with a Switch Lite. Like, how do you anticipate being able to play with other people? That game is made to be played with others.
Well, I mean, you can play online.
That is true. That is true.
Nintendo finally out here in the year 2005. But yeah,
2025 almost.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, in terms of allowing online multiplayer. Yeah, so Super Mario Party Jamboree.
I think that's a good choice. Our next category, and this is one that I think is difficult to nail down because obviously, like, we are looking for the most enjoyable game, and I think that's what the community probably went with, right? Is the most enjoyable game. I'm not gonna reveal those results just yet, but I think the one that remained truest to this category, by the way, truest to this category, and this category is Best Remake Remaster, is going to be Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but also followed by Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, Another Code Recollection, and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Now, here's the thing. Like I was saying, this category is hard to nail down because when you look at the amount of work that was done on Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, we lost 30 frames in that translation from GameCube over to Nintendo Switch. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, we lost the 3D. Another Code Recollection, I gotta be honest, it just wasn't my jam. It was a very niche game. But Mario vs. Donkey Kong, from Game Boy Advance all the way to Nintendo Switch, and the amount of work that they did, on top of adding the extra levels that they added to it, there's an argument to be made there that is by far the best the best work done on a remake out of all of these, right? But I think the community is right when we're looking for what was the most enjoyable out of all of these. And Mario vs. Donkey Kong, when we reviewed it here on the podcast, I think we gave it a 6 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10.
Don't bring me into this.
You weren't on the show yet. But I think we gave Mario vs. Donkey Kong a 6.5 out of 10. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, I think was average. We ended up not even reviewing Another Code Recollection. But Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, we didn't review. But I can tell you from personal experience, it is by far my favorite Paper Mario that's ever been made. What about you, Chris? Is there anyone on here that sticks out to you that you would have said, hey, I would have given my award to this if it was a team effort of voting?
Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door. Another Code Recollection. While the second game, part of the game, which was like based on the Wii version, it was fine with like the motion controls and stuff, but some of the stuff from the first game that was on the DS and then they brought it over to with motion controls, I just like the touch screen. Something about that. I mean, the DS is probably my favorite Nintendo. It's probably, I should rephrase that. It's not my favorite. It's probably the best Nintendo system. So
I'm doing my best to not come through my microphone and murder you directly.
Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. Yeah, it's probably the best Nintendo handheld system. The best they ever did with one. Thank you. Thank you.
Trying to censor you.
So the touch controls were much better on that than the other one. I wanted to like Another Code a lot more than I ended up liking it. Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door, 30 FPS. It was a bit of a bummer, but I mean, I'll just end it with that. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, the community probably agrees with you the most. This was another one of our high community voted titles here, with 80% of the community vote going directly to Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and I think overall I have to agree with them. It is my favorite out of the 4 that was listed here. It was the same experience that I had, with some minor improvements in terms of adding some quality of life. So that way you didn't have to go into menus all the time to change out your partners. You didn't have to go into a certain area and do a whole ton of backtracking. And the community voting, 80% of that spoke loudly and clearly enough for both you and I as the board to make sure that whoops, I pressed the wrong buttons, to make sure that Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door ended up getting the win here. There's not a whole lot more to say about Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door other than the fact that if you did not have a GameCube and you have never had the opportunity to play this, it is a must-play title. If you are a fan of turn-based style games, and when we look at the turn-based games that came out this year, right, the turn-based Mario games, you had Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and you had Mario and Luigi Brothership. I would argue that Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is a much better experience out there than Mario and Luigi Brothership.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's all she wrote. We're going to move on to the next category here. Chris, take it away, my good sir.
Alrighty. Okay, so the best NSO edition. Here we go. We've got the nominees Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age. Those both came out on the same day. Alleyway for the Game Boy. Metroid Zero Mission. Vector Man. Densetsu
no Starfy.
Yep, exactly. That's what I thought. And Perfect Dark for the N64 18 plus edition. And yeah, so we've got all those games. I know you're mainly a bigger fan of like the newer games and you don't really play a lot of the older stuff, but some of these games came out on the Game Boy Advance.
Excuse me? That's a lie. We talked about this at the top of the show. I only like new games.
New Wire Plays.
I'm changing my name today. It's just who I am now. I'm New Wire Plays. I don't play any old games, only the newest, the latest and greatest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My buddy Prophecy, he came up with a great idea. If we ever have an episode on... has nothing to do with anything else but this. If we ever have an episode on April Fool's Day, to just do Nintendo fast forward, and we just talk about games we're looking forward to next week, and don't actually talk about any games we played. But yeah, of these games, which one do you think you would pick?
Honestly, there are a couple here that I really lean toward. Metroid Zero Mission ranks up there. It is my favorite Metroid, 2D Metroid, by a long shot in a lot of ways. And I think that's followed by Metroid Dread pretty closely because I only like new games. But Metroid Zero Mission, it ranks up there. But the one that really kind of caught us off guard, partly because we talked about it during the previous week before it got announced that it was coming to Nintendo Switch, and I was like, we are fortune tellers. We know the future. Was Densetsu no Starfy, and it was Densetsu no Starfy 1, 2, and 3 that came out during that time frame. And it was such a surprise, but for the American audience and for many people who haven't really had the chance to play them, although we did get the legendary Starfy for the DS, Densetsu no Starfy is a phenomenal gaming experience. I mean, it's a platformer game. It gives you Kirby vibes. It gives you Mario vibes. Like a legitimately good set of games that came out during that same time frame. But those two are ones that stick out to me that I think are probably super, super deserving of this category. What about you, Chris?
I think out of this list, my favorite it's probably got to be, I love the Golden Sun games, and I know I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through and play through these games. It's going to be great. I'm going to play through from beginning to end. I'm going to play through the first one and then play through the second one. And I played it for about 45 minutes to make a YouTube video. I haven't been back since, but I'm going to get to it before Mel says I told you so. I said, Mel, please listen. I'm going to play this, okay? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it before the end of 2026. Okay, I'm going to play through Golden Sun, The Lost Age.
That would
That's
be
just
phenomenal.
what I'm going to do.
They are beautiful, wonderful, wonderful games, and I think the community was absolutely very. No, back it up. You do need to play both of those. They're longer games, but they're very, very good turn-based JRPGs, and they are iconoclasts in their genre. Very much. Some of those games that you should definitely experience. It is Camelot's love letter to JRPGs in a positive way, and a lot of times we associate Camelot nowadays with the sports games. Specifically, Mario Golf is one that we look to, but Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age are both phenomenal. And all of the games that are on this list are actually really, really good. Vector Man's probably my favorite Sega Genesis game, by far. Alleyway, it's Breakout, but it's a Game Boy game, and it's one of the original ways to play Breakout on the go. And Perfect Dark, it is one of the hardest to emulate games just in general. A lot of people use that as the standard to say, hey, is this game going to run on your emulating console that you have? If no, maybe you should look at something else if you're looking to play Nintendo 64. But I can tell you the community was a little bit divided on those. But this was your category. Why don't you tell the people what the community was planning to vote for?
Yeah, I will tell you, because it was split. 33% of the community voted for Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age, and then another 33% of those rascals voted for Metroid Zero Mission.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then we had no choice, but we had to vote for Vector Man. No, I'm kidding. Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age.
Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age legitimately are phenomenal games. They're some of the most beautiful turn-based JRPGs that are on the console. It's got a very cool turn-based gameplay style where you're stacking elements and you're collecting gens and you're trying to build up the best super moves that you can. And based on the gens, which by the way, there's one, based on the gens that you have equipped is going to determine what class you were playing in. It's got a very cool 4-person party system. And then when you follow that up with something like Golden Sun: The Lost Age, my gosh, the reason both of these games are in this category is because the story is necessary. You have to play both to get it, to experience the full events of what was going on. And yes, you're playing as 4 separate characters that are descendants of the original 4, right? But you are jumping into a continued story that was done differently than anything else that had ever been done on the Game Boy Advance system. So much so that there's like a 25 character code that you have to input on a D-pad and an A button, like way back in the day, to be able to continue your save going into Golden Sun: The Lost Age, and be able to get a collection of gens and some characters earlier unlocks. Very, very, very cool addition, and it came early in the year, back in January. I love those games, and I know, Chris, you haven't had the chance to play them, and you said you're going to, and we're going to hold you to it. If you guys want to make sure that you're following along with Chris on his journey through Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age in the year 2025, because he's going to do it before 2026 is up, go give him a follow over at his Twitch channel as well, twitch.tv/Super Nintendo Dad. Now, we're going to move into the next category, and this is going to be one that is very, very different from what most people associate Nintendo with, and it's not the mobile apps, but we're going to be voting on Best Mobile App from Nintendo The first one being Nintendo Music that launched earlier this year, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete that just came out, and Pokemon TCG Pocket. And yeah, we're kind of bending our definitions of Nintendo just a little bit with Pokemon TCG Pocket because it did come from DNA and it is from the Pokemon Company, and they're not technically Nintendo, but everyone associates Pokemon with Nintendo. Come on now. So, that being said, those three there, Chris, is there one that sticks out to you here?
Yeah, I would say there's one that sticks out to me in terms of like the game that I was like super high on, Pokemon TCG Pocket, and I really enjoyed it. I was kind of bewildered by Nintendo Music, and then they just kind of didn't do what we were talking about multiple times and hoping they would do.
Right.
And then we got Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete. I didn't really... I kind of fell off of that after like a week when it first came out, and then got back on when they had the Mario hats, and then fell off of it again, but loaded it back up before it shut down to make sure I saw my Mario hat. And then, then life just kind of threw a cinder block at my forehead, so I didn't go back to it yet. But for me, I think
it just released last week, so you're not far from it.
No, I'm just saying the game itself. I haven't gone back to it in a while. But yeah, then I did not for complete edition. I was thinking about diving back in, but I just haven't given it a go. But for that reason, I'm going to have to go with Pokemon TCG Pocket. What about you?
Honestly, I loved Animal Crossing Pocket Camp back when it was not the complete edition. Microtransactions and all. I bought so many Leaf tickets or whatever they're called, and the Leaf monies to be able to buy a whole bunch of different things. I had a full-on Halloween-themed campsite that I let be Halloween-themed all year round just because I liked how it looked so much. But I played a lot of that. I even entered the contest that they did. It was like a random sweepstakes giveaway, and I ended up getting the Animal Crossing Pocket Camp lunch bag. So I have an Animal Crossing lunch bag that came from them, and there were only like 500 of those, I think, that were sent out. So I've got one of 500 that no one else can have.
Well, that's great.
It is cool.
But let me ask you real quick
before
you move on.
Ask away.
What's the best thing you ate out of that lunch bag?
An Uncrustable. Peanut butter and jelly Uncrustable. That was the best thing I ever ate out of that lunch bag. Can you disagree?
We all know
those things are glorious.
Do you know how I eat my Uncrustables?
How do you add crust to your Uncrustable?
No. You know what? We don't need to get into it on this. We will talk about it we'll have an episode on the
best Nintendo snacks.
Backers.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, how Chris eats his Uncrustables.
There we go.
You can find out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go over to NintendoRewind.com to find out more about how Chris eats his Uncrustables. But I was so disappointed with Nintendo Music, and I think there is so much more that they could do. They have all the music already. Just add it, okay? Just add it, Nintendo.
Yeah.
And be more consistent. But the one that stood out to me the most, and the one that I've had the most fun with this year, has been Pokemon TCG Pocket. So much so that I've accidentally held on to my my season, not my season pass. What's it called? What is the premium pass? I've accidentally held on to that. I keep forgetting to cancel it, but I did end up pulling the immersive Mew, so I've completed the Kanto Pokedex in there. And I've got the secret immersive Mew.
Was it December 19th? The next
I do believe it is.
Comes out or something?
I do believe it is, and hopefully trading is going to be coming around that time too, I think, is what they had said. That might be next year, actually, but I can't quite remember. But that is the game that stuck out to me the most. And the game that stuck out to the community the most, with 67% of the community vote, was in fact Pokemon TCG Pocket. And that, my friends, is going to be our winner for this category. They've done a lot to try to support this game. They've had multiple events. We've had a Fire Arcanine EX event. We've had a Venusaur event. They've had 2 live tournament events. There's been a Lapras EX event as well as a Venusaur EX event in that game. They have done so much to continue supporting that and giving people reasons to come back. I've been very thrilled with the way the collection track is in that game. It's so much fun to just open blister packs.
Yeah.
And I love seeing what new cards I end up getting, especially when it comes to the EX cards, the full arts, the immersive cards. They are so cool to see in action on that game. And it gives me a nice quick way to actually play this game without having to go to a card shop and have a 60 card deck and, sit down and play.
Right, yeah.
Chris, what are your thoughts on Pokemon TCG Pocket? How much have you visited it this past year? Is it one that is on your radar on a daily experience or no?
I played it quite a bit the first 2 days maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first day it was like, oh, that's out, and you were like, oh, it's out, and then I think it was because we were playing Fortnite or something after we recorded an episode. We played on the Switch, obviously, and I was playing the game, and I was like, oh, this is exciting, just because got all the endorphins from opening the packs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that first night was the last time I was ahead of you in levels, and then you started playing it. There's been multiple times I thought about deleting it just because I keep going in to open packs and I just get rubbish, just garbage, absolute garbage. I don't really like playing the card part of it and that much anymore, just because with the set number of cards, there's only so many people you're going to run into, and they all have the same exact pack and hogwash.
I think as we get more expansions into this game, the diversity is going to get significantly greater, because oftentimes you are facing very much the same kind of decks. You're facing a Pikachu deck, or you're facing a Mewtwo deck, or it's very rare that you see something that's new and inventive. For the past couple of days I've been playing it and going up against people and playing with a Articuno Greninja deck that I've been really enjoying. But I've enjoyed Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, but I agree with your take on the fact that right now in this early infancy phase of Pokemon TCG Pocket, there's not enough variety there for, I think, the casual user to really, really enjoy until they start adding more expansions to this game.
Yeah. And you know what I'm realizing? The more we talk about this, it just seems like it's you know what? Maybe I just don't like video games. No,
oh my God! No! Oh no! I think there is some merit into talking about the quality of game that is out there nowadays too. That quality has. There is a significant drop in quality, and there's a reason that here in 2 more categories we're going to be talking about some games that really did blow us away, and we had a very large list that we had to cull down. But that's not this next category. Do you want to reveal the next category, my good sir?
Sure, of course I do. All right, so the next category is Best Non-Gaming Moment. We've got Super Nintendo Land's Donkey Kong Country expansion, by golly we do. We've got Nintendo Museum, and we've got Alarmo. So what do you think of those three? Of those three, is there one that stands out to you?
My kids asked for Alarmo for Christmas. They're not getting
out
Alarmo
Film
for
Trip.
Christmas. I'm just
Shout out
going to
to
be
what?
honest. They're not
What?
getting Alarmo for Christmas. I'm ruining Christmas. Instead, they've asked for hamsters now. So, like, they don't know what they actually want. Hamsters, Alarmo, it's all the same.
Hamsters.
But, you know, Alarmo did intrigue me when they announced it. I definitely was on the train of who asked for this. Why? Because the other two here definitely, like, I love theme parks. I love theme parks. They hit that, like, part of endorphins, part of my brain that's like, you want to go to this. You want to experience this. I don't have the love for DKC that I think another certain one of our co-hosts do, but I think that I do enjoy Nintendo as a whole, and I want to see them succeed. It is one of those things, though, that, like, a DKC park expansion is so strange to me as a choice here, because they don't really have any other multimedia that's going to support Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Country necessarily. I mean, they've got Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, but that's an old game that's getting turned into a new game, right? But
Yeah.
it is hard for me to fathom why that was the choice Nintendo made this past year, to do that when they could have done a myriad of other things. I think expanding outside of Mario was a good idea, but I think maybe making it more all-inclusive Super Nintendo Land and doing an area where it's just a variety of Metroid, Zelda. Zelda would have made more sense to me. I'm going to be completely honest. Zelda would have made 100% more sense to me than Donkey Kong Country Parks expansion. But the one that stands out to me the most is just a weird, kooky Nintendo museum and being able to go and play with the big Joy-Cons. Like, that's the thing that gets me most excited. I wanna play with big controllers and experience the history of Nintendo, because we here at Nintendo Rewind like throwing back and looking at the past for Nintendo. And that is like the perfect place to do it. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I definitely like the idea of those big bottom controllers. They just, I like the way just seeing people like use them for, like, they were playing. What were they playing? Like tennis?
Yes.
Wii tennis with them.
There was also that flying game that they were playing, Pilot Wings Wii. I don't know what it was actually called.
No, that was Pilot Wings, Wii Sports Resort, maybe.
Yes, yeah, Wii Sports Resort.
And yeah, well, I mean, the Joy-Con, just in general, when they had that, I'll always have a nice space in my heart for the Nintendo Wii, thanks to my dad. Dad always plays Halo, right, on the Xbox. But as soon as they announced that the name was the Nintendo Wii, I went and got the gamer tag Nintendo Wii, and that was, my dad was like, "Can you just give me a gamer tag that I can play on?" So I just got Xbox Live on that until he told me that people were like sending them hateful messages.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
And he asked me to get him a new name, so he went from Nintendo Wii to Big Papa Beck is what his name changed.
I like the first name better, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, listen, it was either that or Slam Dad Bod, but
that's also a good name. I think you should have went with that one too.
Yeah. Well, that was the one. Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's neither here nor there. The Nintendo Museum. Enough about that. But yeah, the Nintendo Museum was like, I was like, gosh, I mean, I'm conflicted about.
I thought you were announcing the winner, and I already did the winner. The Nintendo Museum! You said Nintendo Museum twice, and I was like, oh, okay, he's wanting to move on. 67% of the community vote as well on that one, too, was the Nintendo Museum.
That's true. It did win that as well. Yeah, there we go.
Absolutely. It was our pick. It was the community's pick. I think you guys made a good choice. It just looks so cool. And it's an experience beyond just looking at history. It's an interactive exhibit. They have so many cool things, from the Hanafuda cards, crafting, to just experiencing it in a more tangible way. It's not just going and looking at things like you would see at your traditional museum. Nintendo's really found a way to gamify that building, and that's such a cool experience. I heavily recommend many of you guys take a look at this, at the direct that they did for that. It was 15 minutes worth of very, very deep dive info, and it was so cool seeing Mario's dad, Shigeru Miyamoto-san, working his way through the Nintendo Museum and showing off a lot of the very, very cool things that they have on exhibit in there. Our very next category is the one that I think Chris is looking forward to the most here, and it is going to be the best third-party game. Your nominees are Pizza Tower, The Rise of the Golden Idol, Animal Well, Balatro, Thank Goodness You're Here, and Pepper Grinder. There's a lot of really, really, really good games that are on this list, and we had to narrow it down to the top 6 that we wanted to put up for vote with you guys. But let me be clear, there were a lot of games we had on this list, close to 40 titles that we had to eliminate. Things like Dragon Quest III HD 2D or 2D HD, things like Sonic and Shadow Generations, Epic Mickey Rebrushed. There were so many games that were on here that we had to make a decision on, and we also needed to make sure that we didn't do DLCs as well. We wanted to keep them as full releases and experiences. Anton Blast was on this list, for instance, but Pizza Tower was up there.
And then,
what do you got, Chris?
I was just going to say the 7th game was Llama, How Well Do You Know Her?
Llama, how well do you know her? But you know, it is one of those things that, like, there's so many good games that have came to Switch, and I think their commercial from a previous Summer Games Fest was, we have games, and it stayed true. It has stayed true. They do truly have games on Nintendo Switch, and they've got so many, and it has been a home to so many good experiences. Penny's Big Breakaway is one I want to shout out that did not make this list, that we decided to cut, but I think deserved a place up here, but we just couldn't fit it because the 6 that we do have selected here are 6 very, very huge, very, very well received games in so many ways. But we put this up for community vote, and I'll tell you what the community ended up voting, and it was a close race on all of these. 40% of the community vote went to Animal Well. But Chris, we know how the community feels. Tell me a little bit about how you feel. I'll tell you a little bit about how I feel.
Okay, before you reveal the winner, I will say I like all of these games that are on this list.
Yeah.
Rise of the Golden Idol, great game. Pizza Tower, Animal Well, Balatro. Thank Goodness You're Here, one of my favorite games of the year. It's a great game. I think Thank Goodness You're Here is a game that people that don't even like video games would like. Just because it's kind of like you're playing through just a funny cartoon almost. But yeah, and then Pepper Grinder. Loved Pepper Grinder. Shout out to Pepper Grinder, right? But then, yeah, I mean, the community, they voted, 40% for Animal Well? I mean, obviously, yeah, Animal Well is really good as well. What about you? Where did you stand with these games?
You know, the only game on this list that I did not get the chance to play was The Rise of the Golden Idol. But I played and beat Pizza Tower nearly 100%. I had such a good time with that game. Although I will say I felt like I was tripping on acid the entire time I was playing it. It was so fast-paced and so crazy and so much like 90s cartoon nonsense that was happening on screen. But it fulfilled that niche of like Wario lands that I haven't had the chance to play in years. I genuinely love Pizza Tower. Also, my wife got it for me for my birthday last year on Steam, so that was when I played it. Was on Steam, and I just had such a good time with that game. Animal Well was one that was so cryptic, and never ever really felt like I truly got rewarded for my smarts in that game. Like, it never made me feel like a genius, you know? It always made me feel like, oh, well, you finally brute forced your way through that puzzle. But it was so beautiful, and the atmosphere was so good, and some of the puzzles in it were genuinely fascinating to see how you were supposed to progress. I had a great time with Animal Well. Balatro, I finally picked up on the App Store after we've talked about it enough over the last few weeks, and I have to say, I need to devote some more time into that game. It's so cool, though. It is so cool. Thank goodness you're here.
Yeah.
Again, another one of those games that I think deserves a big shout out. The biggest hit to it is I think it's too short. But it is a very cool 2 to 4 hour experience that it gave me. You know what it reminded me of?
Let's hear it.
It reminded me of a more mature version of Richard Scarry's Big Big World. If you remember that from like the 90s and 2000s. That was like a very cool, like, animated, like, you're experiencing the world through this worm that drives an Apple car. If I say that, you should definitely recognize it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it kind of gave me those vibes, but you're playing it, right? And you're playing a game that is essentially a true cartoon, a spiritual successor to Untitled Goose Game. Not even spiritual successor, just the next project from that team. And it was done so well. It's hard for me to not recommend that game. But the one I had the most fun with, personally, most fun with was Pepper Grinder. Ooh. But I love hard platformers. And that game, albeit there was a little bit of a game-breaking bug that I hit at the end of it when I got into this. I don't want to spoil it. I'm not gonna say. I got into a thing that I could drive, if you know what I mean. It was a very big thing that I could drive. The game broke on me, so I wasn't able to progress for a while, so I had to load up an old save to be able to continue my progress in that game. But beyond that, like, that game was so cool. Had a very cool soundtrack. Devolver Digital backed it. Like, it was just one of those games that I would recommend to anyone who is a fan of fast-moving platformers. And you know, like you said, 40% of the community voted for Animal Well.
Yeah, for sure. Before you announce the winner, I just want to say, I know this is a Nintendo third-party podcast, but these are third-party games. You can play them other places. If you have an iPhone, an iPad, any sort of tablet, and you have Netflix, you can go and play The Rise of the Golden Idol and treat yourself over there.
Treat yourself.
But otherwise, go ahead. You can carry on, good sir.
Well, I think this is the one case that you and I both agreed on, and we diverted from the community, and we had our agreements before we put up the community vote. Community went with Animal Well, 40%, and I do want to give that a proper shout out to Animal Well. Congratulations on receiving the Rewindies community vote on this, but we as a board decided to go a little bit of a different route, and the winner for the best third-party game from Nintendo Rewind on the Rewindies is Pepper Grinder. And I'm looking at the YouTube chat, and I'm seeing Mel needs a name, probably gonna take my name from me and kill me. But Pepper Grinder was so fun. It was so fun, and I had such a good time with that game. It's hard for me to not just be like, okay, that's the one for me. For me, it was the one I enjoyed the most out of all of those games that were on that list. Even though I loved Pizza Tower, I loved Balatro, I've loved Animal Well. This game did it for me, and it was beautiful. It was so cool to look at, and they did such a good job on animations. How do you feel about our choice? Do you feel confident about it, even though the community went against us on this one?
The community went against us, but the community isn't always right, especially when it comes to Pepper Grinder, because it was probably, out of all of them, it was my favorite game that I played this year. And it's a game that I played through, beat and would like to play again.
It was one I was really surprised when you told me you had beaten it, because like I always see you playing games, but I never see you beat them. And then you told me you beat this one, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this must be a great game. And it truly was. I think, as a matter of fact, I can't remember. I think you ended up getting an extra copy of this game for me. I don't think I ended up having to purchase this one, if I'm remembering correctly. It was this one, and you also got me a copy of Penny's Big Breakaway for review this year too. So big shout outs to Chris, Super Nintendo Dad, for helping me out this year. We have 2 more categories left, and one of them is the biggest category that we have to talk about tonight, and you are going to be heading that up in this very next one. Chris, are you ready to announce the big one?
I'm ready. Okay, here we go. Game of the Year. Nominees are Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. We've got Mario and Luigi Brothership. We've got Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. Of course, we also have Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club. And we've got Super Mario Party Jamboree. Yeah, we got quite a few games there. Nintendo, I mean, this is like pretty much what the most of the games that Nintendo released that were not remakes or remasters, right?
Mm-hmm. This is that was kind of the criteria for Game of the Year for us. Is they weren't DLCs, they weren't remakes, they weren't remasters, they weren't just ports from another system. They had to be something that was officially new from Nintendo, and that's kind of been our criteria during the last year's Rewindies, which we didn't even call them Rewindies then. We called them the Kawashimis, because I didn't have a name, and it was our very first episode ever of the Nintendo Rewind podcast. But it was it was important to me back then, and it's important to me now that we celebrate the people who are making strides and advancements and creating something new for the platform that people haven't seen. And I don't think anything should rest on its laurels just because it was great before means it's going to be great again. That doesn't mean that we need to focus on the old stuff only, even though we are the Rewindies and we're Nintendo Rewind. But I wanted to do something new. I wanted to make sure that we are awarding stuff that is new. And that stuff like, for instance, not to throw any shade at Jeff Keighley in the Game Awards, but Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree should not be up for Game of the Year, my own personal opinion, because they changed the criteria there to include DLCs. And that's just not going to be our thing here, as far as the Rewindies are concerned. But, Chris, do you want to tell the people what ended up winning? And I'll give you a drum roll.
Yep, give me the drum roll, because Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom not only won the community vote with 60%, but it also won our vote.
Absolutely.
Echoes of Wisdom.
Echoes of Wisdom!
Yeah. So, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom won. I think it was the best game on this list.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I think by far it was the best game that was on this list of games that came out. Mario and Luigi Brothership, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, Emio the Smiling Man, and Super Mario Party Jamboree all deserved a place as nominees on the Rewindies. But I think Echoes of Wisdom probably pushed the limits of making something new feel good. In a way that everything else hadn't. And I would even argue Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, we almost kind of included a remake remaster in some ways, but because it is all the old stuff but repackaged as new. But it was done in a very different fashion, right? But Mario and Luigi Brothership, I've heard rumor from a lot of people, and I'm tending to agree because it's people I respect within the community, saying that one doesn't even deserve to be up here, right? Because it is one of the weakest entries in that series. Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club, it is a very niche title. But The other one that I think probably could have contested with this title even more is Super Mario Party Jamboree, and it's because it is so much fun. Mario parties are always fun. They have done a really, really good job optimizing those, but Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom just echoed within me. Not because I'm wise, but because I like a good 2D top-down Zelda. What about you, Chris? How did you feel about our winner here?
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I liked the game itself. I don't know that it was like my favorite, a Legend of Zelda game, but
right.
It was something different, and we're always like, oh, just give us something different, and so they did, and that's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I liked it enough. More than enough, I suppose, since it won Game of the Year.
Yeah, we really liked it. Again, we gave it an 83 out of 100. So it is one of those games that I think definitely deserves to be played, and it is the best game this year that Nintendo has published and put out. We do have one more category here, and that final category that's going to be coming at you is the most anticipated game for 2025. And right now we only have 4 games that we know about that are coming next year. First one, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Pokemon Legends ZA, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I'm going to lead on this one. I'm going to tell you, Chris, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition has my full attention. I love the Xenoblade Chronicles games. I genuinely adore those. They are good action turn-based-esque JRPGs, auto JRPGs. I don't even know what category to put them in. But it is one of those things that I am so excited to finally have this on the actual list of games that are coming out for Nintendo Switch. Because I didn't think it was coming. I legitimately given up. I was like, we have Xenoblade Chronicles, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but we're not getting the best Xenoblade Chronicles game out of all 4 of them that are out. And we finally got an announcement for it. That's the one that gets my jimmies in a knot, as I asked you earlier. What about you, Chris? Are your jimmies knotted up properly? Are they full knot?
Okay, well, let's dial it down a little. I will. What are you talking about? Am I what? My jimmies?
Are your jimmies full knot?
Yep, they're fully knotted. Watch out now. In terms of these games here that we have, Xenoblade Chronicles X, I played it on Wii U. I'm looking forward. Donkey Kong Returns HD, I played it on the Wii, then I played it on
3DS.
The 3DS, and now it's over here.
I'm going to play it. Let me be clear, I'm going to play it, and I'm glad that both the Return series games are on the Nintendo Switch now, but I've played it twice already.
Yeah, that's part of the problem with stuff like that. Then we've got Pokemon Legends. I liked Pokemon Legends a lot, Arceus. And so therefore I was kind of excited for that. But then going back and playing Metroid Prime Remastered, it was like, it was just so good. I was like, yeah, okay.
It was.
I'm ready for Metroid Prime 4.
And I think the community is with you as well, Chris, because 69% of the community vote went to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. There's a lot to be hyped about with that game. I think Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is one of those games that is going to truly reinvigorate the Metroid franchise. Metroid Dread, unfortunately, even though there was clear growth that Nintendo showed, Metroid Dread still did not sell like gangbusters, right? But there's been enough mythos and enough of a weight for Metroid Prime and enough of a meme that's been created for Metroid Prime that I think we are going to see a ton of people pick up a Nintendo Switch just to be able to play Metroid Prime, right? And this game, mind you, it's hard to believe that this is playing on Nintendo Switch. But everything that they are saying, Linus Tech Tips or whoever does all the deep dives, Corridor Digital, I don't know, they were looking at the tech that was on here and saying this is coming from a Nintendo Switch. This is crazy if true. And I'm so excited to dive back into the world of Metroid Prime. So excited to see that storyline continue for Samus. I'm so excited to take on some space pirates and some Metroids and really see what a modern day first person experience for Metroid can feel like and play like. It is the one that I am beyond most hyped for as well. I agree with the community. You guys have done well. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition's my shout out though. What about you, Chris? How are you feeling about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? Are you stoked?
Yeah, I am looking forward to it quite a bit. I was kind of bummed out when they showed it and they were like 2025. I was hoping that we would have something this holiday, but yeah.
Right.
I also understand. I mean, this has been in the works for ages at this point, but here we are, Metroid Prime 4, 2025. We're getting there. I mean, you're gonna blink and it'll be, January. It'll all be 2025 already.
Yeah.
So it'll be here before you know it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, this has been your 2020. How about me?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how about you?
I'm excited. I'm so excited for Metroid Prime 4. We do have some people in the live chat saying their excitement for that game has passed. And speaking of people, it's Nolan. So Nolan says that their excitement for the Metroid Prime series has passed. I understand a lot of people's distance from that game and being worried about it not being quite what they want or not even caring anymore. But it is going to be something that I'm going to be diving into pretty deeply and enjoying on day one whenever it comes out. But this has been your 2024 Rewindies. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Chris, do you have any hopes, any dreams for the next year for Nintendo? What do you want to see come from them beyond the Nintendo Switch 2?
Besides the Nintendo Switch 2, I want a new Nintendogs. I want them to release a new Elite Beat Agents, and I want them to give me a Spice Orange controller at launch.
Oh, Spice Orange controller at launch would be amazing. It would be absolutely the best possible thing that you could ever hope for. I have my Spice Orange GameCube controller. This is like an original one too. It's not reshelled, so it came from Japan. I really wish they made that colorway available here. Orange is my favorite color. Yeah. But I am super stoked for this next year for Nintendo. Only good things can come. Right? Only better things can come, because if we look back at the last 12 months of Nintendo, we had a lot of remakes, we had a lot of ports, we had a lot of remasters, we had a lot of poor performing games over this last year. If I had to give them a rating, I think on our last 6-month pulse check for Nintendo, I think if I had to give them a rating on a scale of F to A, I would probably realistically give them a D+ to a C-. There have been some real standout experiences out there. Getting Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, getting Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, the revival of Mario and Luigi franchise, even though it's been a little bit underwhelming. There's been some good standout experiences there, but I think overall this is the year that they have really put a lot of their focus and effort toward creating the best possible launch they can for the Switch 2. At least that's what I'm hoping for, and that's what we've got to look forward to. What about you, Chris? What are you hoping? What grade would you give Nintendo over this last year?
Oh yeah, definitely a D. They bless their heart, they tried. Well, sort of. They I mean, they were here. They showed up. It's like kind of like one of those things where you just kind of give them a passing grade so that they don't stay back another year.
Right. Right. I don't want to
but
fail them and
I
then
don't
have a
wanna fail,
repeat of
yeah.
2024.
we don't want Gary back in class next year.
No, get him out. Get him out.
Gary, please. Yeah.
No, man.
But I'm looking optimistic about next year, though.
Absolutely. Me too. Me too. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our second annual Rewindies. Let us know what you thought of the awards in the comments. If we missed a game that should have been on this list that you would have liked to have seen, please make sure that you are telling us about that too. We'd love to try those out if we missed them personally. But that being said, we do have a few games that are coming up this next week. We're not going to be doing the traditional fast forward segment in the same way we didn't do the traditional thanks segment. But Chris, do you want to tell the people what's getting ready to come out this upcoming week?
Yeah, sure. Because today we've got Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered. Then we've also got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind.
The like Shredder's Revenge-esque style beat 'em up, but done with Power Rangers instead.
Right. Plus they got some of them that are like levels that are like behind the back and they're kind of like running away from the screen. It's pretty cool. Victory Heat Rally comes out on December 12th, sorry. And that is a game that came out on Steam. I played it there. Really enjoyed it. It's kind of like an old school, maybe almost like an Outrun sort of like arcade racing
It
game.
reminded me a lot of, and there's been a lot of people who've played this, but there was a game called Slipstream that came out a while back. It reminded me a lot of that game as well, but way more fleshed out and a little more cartoony.
Exactly, yeah. And then we got since last week, we got Donkey Kong Land 3 out on the NSO expansion. Or no, just NSO.
Yeah, that was my bad. I added an expansion in the show notes there, so
I have to double check. I'll check back for next week. But when it first came out, it might be the case where the US version of NSO only has the original Game Boy version, but you can play the Game Boy Color version on the Japanese NSO.
That is still accurate. That is still accurate. So what you just said, yes.
So yeah. So you can go, if you create a free account on the Japanese NSO account, you can go in, download the app for free, and then open it with your US account and play the games that way.
Mm-hmm. Go try it out. Let us know what you think. Donkey Kong Land 3, if you're a Nintendo Switch Online member, you do get access to for free with your membership. So let me be clear. Chris hates that. Chris hates that. But thank you guys so much for joining us for our second annual Rewindies. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It was a pleasure putting this together. I think it turned out really, 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 really nice, really, really professional. I'm very proud of the work that we did for this show. Come back next week, Tuesdays, 9:30 p.m. live right here on Twitch and on YouTube to be able to catch all of our episodes. You can catch all of our past episodes in video form on YouTube at youtube.com/@The Nintendo Rewind. Visit our site for links to all of our social media pages at nintendorewind.com and consider supporting the show through memberships on our site where you'll get bonus content only available there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Chris, where can they find you, my good sir?
Pretty much Super Nintendo on everything, or you can find me in the mean streets of Flowertown.
Mean streets of Flowertown. And then for everything me, go over to nerdwireplays.com. Tomorrow night, Chris and I will be live over on my channel. We're going to be playing Marvel Rivals. It's going to be a good time. If you'd like to join us, please feel free to do so. You can join us in the Discord. We're going to be in the Discord chat. And I'm hoping we have a lot of people join us in the community just in general. Very excited to play some of that live on stream for everyone. So catch us again next week. Remember, please be kind and rewind, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.
Yeah. Catch you in the street.